Hi everyone, thanks for joining in today and watching if you are. I'm Raunak, I'm a fifth year medical student at Jesus College and I'm part of Embrace. We are a student society um, which supports those experiencing homelessness in Cambridge, and we essentially act like a bridge between the university, Cambridge University, and charities in Cambridge which support those experiencing homelessness. And we're joined, very lucky to be joined by Keith here from It Takes a City, which is one of those charities. Thank you so much for joining us today, Keith.
You're very welcome. It's a pleasure. So, as Raunak said, my name's Keith. I work as program manager for It Takes a City, which is a charity that was started in 2018 with the aim of ending homelessness. So the long name of It Takes a City is It Takes a City to End Homelessness. And we've worked in partnership for a number of years, and we have a wide variety of activities.
Thank you, Keith. So, getting on to sort of the main aim of the interview today was just to provide us as students a bit more information and education about the issue. If we could just start with what actually is the situation of homelessness in Cambridge? How bad is it?
It's really bad, and I think it splits into a number of different sections in terms of homelessness. So, as students, you'll probably see that there are people sleeping rough, there are people on the streets, and each year there are a couple of times in the year when there's a census taken, and the number of people sleeping rough in Cambridge is round about 35 to 40, according to that census. Now, that's actually quite low compared to the real numbers. So there's a census done by charities that suggests that the real number is nearly double that. And that's of people sleeping rough. But homelessness is broader than sleeping rough. So if you don't have somewhere secure to live and call home, then you're experiencing the stress of homelessness, even if you're not defined as sleeping rough. And the rough sleepers are then the tip of the iceberg. It's reckoned for every one person sleeping rough, there are probably 7 or 8 people either in or at risk of homelessness. So if we take the number of 40, that means it's 280, 300 people potentially in Cambridge who might be at risk of homelessness. They may not all be homeless at this point, but at imminent risk.
Well, why Cambridge?
I think compared to the countryside, there's a lot of rural areas around Cambridge itself as a city. There are very poor services. There isn't very much going on for homeless people, even if they have links to some of those communities, whereas there's a lot more going on in Cambridge. So the good thing about Cambridge is there are lots of charities, probably about 40 or 50 different charities, who are offering support and help for people who are experiencing homelessness, whether they're sleeping rough or sofa surfing or whatever. So Cambridge is a bit of a magnet. So of all of the people who are at risk of homelessness in Cambridge, it may be that as far as residents are concerned, it might be more like the 30, 35 people, but as far as the broader picture is concerned, we represent areas of Suffolk and Norfolk and rural Cambridgeshire as well.
Okay. It kind of leads me on to my next question a little bit, is that as students, and certainly when I came to Cambridge, it's, can be very obvious and hard to dismiss,
Yep.
people who are sleeping rough. So for us as students, and for me as well, I felt somewhat helpless as well in the situation, which is why I decided to join Embrace. What can we do as students? How can we help?
And that's a really good question, because I think whenever any of us see someone who's obviously in distress on the streets, whether they're trying to sleep in a doorway or whether they're begging, you want to help.
Yeah.
But knowing how to help is something that can help give you great confidence. And most people don't come to the city knowing how to help. And for many people, they may not have experienced the confrontation with homelessness before. It may not be something that's a problem where you live and where you grew up. So we talk about there being 3 streets. So there's an organisation called Street Link, there's an organisation called Street Support, and there's an organisation called Street Aid. These are all accessible via an app. So Street Support Cambridgeshire have produced an app that you can have on your phone and gives you ready access to information about how you can help and the ways that we would recommend to help. So it's not all about money. That's the first thing I'd say. And that people who are genuinely homeless, probably money isn't their primary ask either. They want you to engage with them. So they want you to have the confidence to talk to them, even if the answer is that you're not going to give them money. But also often people arrive and are homeless in the city and have no idea what to do. And the Street Support website in particular helps you to know what's available. So if it's within daytime hours, the fact that people can go to the drop-in for the city council in the centre of the city, and they can just knock on the door and go in, and the council have support officers who can help. But also outside of office hours, who can you call? Where can you go? Because a lot of the support agencies, their focus is 9 to 5, but there are out of hours services, and the Street Support website gives you the support to find those.
And with Street Link and Street Aid?
Again, you'll find links to Street Link and Street Aid via the Street Support app. So that's what I'd say is the kind of the core of it. Go to Street Support Cambridgeshire, download the app, and then you've got most of the information that you need at your fingertips.
Amazing.
And the great thing through Embrace is we'll be providing more detailed information, so you'll be able to go to people like yourself, and you'll have even more information at your fingertips as to what can be done to help.
And in terms of ITAC for City, you talk about kind of ending homelessness.
Yes.
How?
How do we end homelessness? Well, that's a big question. But the first thing might be to actually say, what do we mean by ending homelessness as a starting point? Because does that mean no one will ever be homeless? Well, I think that's a bit unrealistic, because a 16-year-old could be kicked out of their family home because of bad behaviour tomorrow. And even if there wasn't anyone homeless tonight, tomorrow there would be. So I don't think it's that no one ever will be homeless.
Yeah.
But it is 3 things. Homelessness needs to be rare, and currently it's not rare. It needs to be brief, and currently often it's not brief. It can be quite long-standing, and it needs to be non-recurrent. So in other words, the journey from being a rough sleeper or a sofa surfer to having a secure place to call home and a support network around you to sustain that, that's really important. So that at the moment we have problems in all 3 of those areas. So problems with the fact that it's not rare. There are too many people right now sleeping rough and experiencing homelessness. The fact that it's not brief. I was talking to someone yesterday who we managed to find some support and help for, but they've been waiting for 2.5 years.
Wow.
Well, 2.5 years is clearly too long.
Yeah.
And non-recurring, we know from the statistics gathered by the local authority that of the people sleeping rough, someone will be helped tomorrow, but they'll be back on the streets in 6 months from now. And that's clearly also not acceptable.
But why do you think that is? With the
It's often the most common reason is that the reason that people become homeless or experience homelessness is most often related to trauma. If someone has been traumatized and their trauma is not resolved, they haven't received appropriate therapy, counselling, etc., to resolve their trauma, and then they're put into a shared house with 2 other people who are equally suffering from trauma, the likelihood is that within a 3-month period there'll be some kind of explosion. One of those 3 people will be triggered by something that's said or done that they didn't like, and it felt like they were being treated like they were before, what caused their trauma, and therefore they walk out and they say, I'd rather sleep rough than sleep here. So we need we need the right kind of housing, we need it in the right amounts of housing, and we need the support network to rebuild people's lives. So that comes from the clinical side of things. As a medical student, you'll understand that there need to be clinical interventions, particularly if someone is abusing alcohol or other substances. They need help and support to come out of that. And if they don't get that, then it will probably be a revolving door. But also that things are really trauma informed. So trauma affects people very deeply. There's a saying in English that I think is one of the worst ever. It says, "Sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me." The problem really is that name calling and uh, humiliation and things like that cause trauma that is very deep seated and very hard for people to resolve, particularly if it comes in formative years. And talking to people who have experienced homelessness, quite a lot of them experience their first trauma when they're 8, 9, 10 years old. But it doesn't actually surface until they're an adult, perhaps, but then they've gone through, say, 12 years, 15 years of some form of coping mechanism, which has broken down and led to the trauma causing them to be homeless, which is, it's a breakdown of relationships, it's a breakdown of society, it's a breakdown of community. And all of those things are important to the debate around homelessness. So if I move on to the second part of your question about how do we bring it to an end, because having the definition is helpful because at least you really know what you're aiming at.
Sure.
But how we go about it has been a real challenge because for at least the last 25 years, the aim has been to make homelessness better. In other words, for people to experience it less, for there to be better support, for there to be improvements in getting people off the streets, etc.
Yeah.
But that has not been truly aimed at ending homelessness. So at It Takes a City, we really believe that the clue's in the name. It takes a city. So how to end homelessness is not about building a new big organisation. It's not about local authorities acting on their own. It's truly about partnership. And it's partnership that spreads across the whole of the community in Cambridge, because we are all damaged, if you like, by homelessness in the city. Because you've said it, you find yourself uncomfortable on the street because there's someone there who's evidently homeless. So to an extent, the whole community is damaged by homelessness. So ending it will take the whole community as well, operating together.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. For me, it's like, I don't know if uncomfortable, or just there is just a sense of there's such disparity and it's so stark.
Yeah, I think we all recognise that Cambridge is a city of absolute extremes.
Yeah.
You've got everything from people living in houses worth millions and millions of pounds, who have been made millionaires or billionaires through the technology revolution over the last few years. But there are also some of the poorest wards in the entire country in Cambridge. So you've got this real extreme of poverty on the one end and absolute wealth on the other end of the spectrum. And the colleges fit into that because the colleges can be also, some of them relatively wealthy, some of them not so wealthy, but there are things that colleges can do, there are things that students can do.
So going on to kind of that point of it takes a city.
Yep.
What can the city do then? How can we all get behind this kind of one goal of ending or trying to end homelessness?
Yeah, we really believe we can end homelessness. So I'd want to communicate a really positive message. And what we're doing to facilitate that is developing what we're calling a charter to end homelessness. And the charter to end homelessness is a determined coalition. So the coalition or partnership that we're developing involves local authorities. So it's the city council, county council, and the combined authority for Cambridge and Peterborough, all of which have different responsibilities in the city, but actually are associated with homelessness and can help with resolving homelessness. But the local authorities can't do it on their own. So we've said we have a large number of charities. We want all of those charities to cooperate together, because together there's much greater chance of ending homelessness. We want businesses to join the charter, because businesses have resources. They can employ people. They can, as the colleges can also employ people. Sometimes they have vacant property. Colleges sometimes have vacant property, so do businesses. What we want is to release some of that. You can't necessarily release 100% of it. Some of it is tied up in things, but we want to release as much as possible to provide accommodation, resources, employment, so that people who have experienced homelessness are restored into the community. So we also know that support for people is critically important. I think I've said that, particularly with Revolving Door. Sure. And there are a lot of charities that already provide some elements of support. Some of the housing associations and people doing supported housing also offer support. What we want to do is to look at that and say, is it a jigsaw puzzle where all the pieces fit together and there are no gaps? And what we've discovered through some research that we've done is that that's not true. That there are times when organisations overlap and they're both trying to do the same thing. Yeah. And there are times when between one service and another there's a gap and it's a hole that people fall down. And when that happens, that's when the revolving door kicks in. So let's say, for example, Jimmy's is well known in the city. Yeah. Let's say someone finds a place in accommodation at Jimmy's and that comes to an end. You know, what happens in terms of support? Well, sometimes what happens is that the person doesn't have really good ongoing housing and they end up being homeless. But more common is they do find some form of housing, but all the support they had at Jimmy's comes to an end. How do you find the support that's going to take you further along your journey? So we want the support to be much more following the person. And that means that there are some gaps to bridge, which means we need some additional resources. And we need charities to work together to bridge some of those gaps and to fill them, so that that support is much more integrated and all trauma informed.
But by joining this charter, I guess, we as a city can take steps towards tackling this issue.
Yeah, and it comes down to money, expertise, time, and there are a lot of things that students may have to offer. So, for example, one of the things, we want to improve data systems around homelessness so that we really know what the numbers are. Because you'll have heard from my answer to your first question, there's quite a lot of speculation in there, and it may not be certain. But let's say we could gather the data more effectively, and we could present it more effectively. That would help. And students may have that ability to do the data analysis, and they may have time to do that, and it might form part of their studies. So let's say you're a third year undergraduate and you're doing a dissertation in one of these areas. You could do data gathering or data analysis as part of that dissertation process.
Amazing. So is the charter something that students and organisations like colleges can sign up to then?
Absolutely. So we've started under the radar, but from January we will have a website, and we want a very broad selection of people to sign up. So students, the man in the street, right up to the top echelons. So just wait until January before doing that. But yeah, we would really love students to sign up. I think there's a lot that they can contribute. We would really value that contribution. And on the website, there'll be an opportunity for students to be able to say what they feel that they can contribute.
Amazing. Look forward to sort of launching that up and helping to spread the word about that.
Yeah, we'll make sure you have that information.
Thank you. Perfect then. Thank you, Keith. I think that's all the questions we had for today. We'll certainly be following up in the future and having more content like this for all of you lot, just to keep education about issues like this in a more bite-sized and easily digestible manner. So thank you so much for coming today. Really appreciate it. Did you have any final words for the guests?
I hope you all do sign up to the charter and get involved with us in ending homelessness. Really, I want to say I really appreciate this opportunity, and it's been good to talk to you, Raunak. Thank you so much.
Thank you. See you.